How's it going, everyone? In today's video, we are going to be going over a game that I played in a viewer arena of my own on stream against one of my Twitch subscribers who goes by ChessBrawFan, something, I think like maybe ChessBrawFan1 or something on Twitch. So, I'll talk about that a little bit later, but you should also give my Twitch a follow. And, yeah, I thought this would be a really interesting game to go over. This was a very fun game, and I think it'll be instructive, whether it be for him watching back later or for people of similar rating ranges. So with that out of the way, it was a London system. By the way, I have the feedback on, like the individual move feedback on for this game. So feel free to let me know what you like better, if you like the feedback on or if you just like just the pure chess moves. That also works. Knight f6, e3, c5. So one of the key ways to play against the London is to play an early c5. The idea, of course, being that you are attacking their center immediately and you're not afraid of them taking because, well, this pawn's going to be gone. You can even play move like e6 or something to win the pawn back ultimately. So after c5, my opponent plays c3. I put my bishop out on g4, h3, takes, e3, queen takes, knight d2. And so here, one of the key ideas against the London is you want to play an early pawn to e5 break if you can. And the idea is that the pawn on e5 is going to complement the pawns on d5 and c5 well. But also, if you play e5, which I did, if he takes, I'll take with the knight, and I'm attacking the queen and the bishop. And not to mention that this is a very solid structure. I can play b6 in the future and things like that. So, and the other idea behind e5 is I could play e4. Now, if he forgets to move either the queen or the bishop, let's say he goes something like pawn to a4, I will play e4, and it is a fork. But even if it's not a fork, like let's say he drops the bishop back, e4 could still be a strong consideration because if he goes queen e2, I now have an advanced pawn on the e4 square, taking up a lot of squares. But after the move pawn to e5, my opponent played a move that actually impressed me. He played the move queen to g3. And the idea behind queen g3 is that now my pawn is pinned to the queen. So I'm unable to move the pawn or capture because my queen would get captured. So after queen g3, I decide to play rook a to d8, protecting my queen. So now I have the option to take or play e4. And here my opponent played bishop b5. Now, bishop b5 is a mistake because he really should be doing something about this tension. As y'all can see, I have two pawns attacking, so if he doesn't do anything about it, he's either going to be losing a pawn or have like an isolated pawn, like a weakness or something like that. And bishop b5 doesn't quite address that. Now, it's worse for a pretty specific reason that I missed during the game. By the way, I didn't disclaim this earlier, but this is 3 minutes per side with 0-second increment, which is key because I'm not going to get any of my time back, or neither is my opponent, thankfully. Chess.com Chess.com's not that bugged to give your opponent increment and you not. But anyway, so my opponent played bishop b5, and I decided to take on d4. It's slightly preferred e takes, I think, but taking either way is fine. The idea is the same, which is after bishop takes c6. Now, I missed this move. Again, it's blitz. I'm just like playing what seems to be the most natural move, but I just took back, which seemed natural, but the way for me to secure an advantage by winning a pawn is I don't have to recapture. I can play d takes e3. I can play d takes e3 with an attack on the knight. And so if he just drops the bishop back or something, I take the knight. And if he takes the pawn, then I take the bishop. Not only am I up one healthy pawn, but he has an isolated pawn on the e3 square. So that would have been better and probably the way that I would have been able to punish his London. But that didn't happen. I just played b takes, and then he took, and I decided to take and take. Now, I thought I might be doing fine here because he has an isolated pawn, but I also have a weakness on c6, which he could target if he ever so wanted to. So I played rook e6, he played rook e1, I doubled, he brought his king in to protect the rook. So now the rook has two protectors, and I have two attackers. So I could try to trade everything into an endgame, just by like taking something like this, but I wanted to sort of push for a little bit more, while also giving him the opportunity to trade. So I played knight e4. He took, I played rook takes. He played rook takes, then I played rook takes. Now, he's actually doing good if he plays not what he played, which is rook d1, just protecting the pawn. Yeah, he played rook d1, but he should play rook c1 here. Rook c1 would be the better move, the idea being that he is attacking my c6 pawn, and I have to drop back with the rook. And then, computer saying he can go rook e1, and then, apparently the endgame's really good for him. But he played rook d1, I played king f8, he played f3, and then he played rook e1. And I considered taking, but I decided I would just let him make the trade. And so we got into a pawn endgame. Now, I thought I was doing pretty good because I had more pawns in the center, and I thought I could maybe do a pawn break and eventually get past pawn. As it turns out, he has this move b4, which I didn't even see coming, but it kind of stops this c5 option from me, so really this is just a drawn endgame, but there are some dynamics at play, because he has like a 3-on-2, but I have like a 2-on-1 in the center and things like that, so even though the computer says it's drawn, you should take that evaluation with a grain of salt. There could be chances for both sides. So I played the move pawn to e5. Now, he's not just going to let me get what I want, even though this would still be, fine for him, but I get a passed pawn, I get my king centralized. He really shouldn't be allowing that. So, understandably, he just brought his king in. So now if I take, he just takes with the king and has a pretty good bind on my center. So I just played g5, he played king e3, h5, g3, h4, and keep in mind now we're both under a minute. Well, he's not quite under a minute, but I'm under a minute. He's almost under a minute, so again, even though the computer says it's drawn, that doesn't necessarily mean that the position is drawn. Or it doesn't mean that we're necessarily going to draw the game, because we're human and we make mistakes. So here I played he played a4 and I played king e6. So I thought I was getting what I wanted. I wanted to just play king f5, then take, and then just get some opportunity to get in. Which that's exactly what I got. I got exactly what I want here. D3. Oh, whoops. Sorry about that. 1 second. D3. I got exactly what I want. I get a situation where I'm going to take the pawn. He is so far away from my pawn, and I'm going to win. But you might notice, it still says it's drawn. So what is the big deal? Well, as it turns out, my opponent did the natural play. He went king c3 to try to go after my pawn. So basically it was a pawn race. He went over there, while I went over here, which is losing. So this loses the game. Now, what he needs to do is he has 2 moves that can draw. Weirdly enough, yeah, he has 2 moves that draw. It might look like there's a 3rd move, but that is not the case. That move also loses. So here's the thing. I'm trying to go in, go out, and then push. Now keep in mind, there are 3 steps to that. Go in, go out, then push. Now, he can actually stop one of the plans. He can't stop me from going in, because his king is just way too far away. But if he plays a move and there are multiple moves that get the job done. King d3, king g3. He can't stop me from going in, but he stops me from going out. And if you are familiar enough with endgames, you'll notice that this is a rook pawn, and with his king shouldering my king, this is a draw. Now you might be thinking, well, there are 2 other pawns on the board, so our stalemate matter. Well, the thing is, it would be stalemate for me. So, for it to be not to be stalemate, I would have to push my pawn, and then he'd be able to take it. So either way, this is a draw. Obviously, I wouldn't allow that. I would just do, just keep shuffling the king and just accept a repetition. So, going back to that position, he draws if he plays either king d3 or king d1. And the same idea with king d1 is that he can just follow me, and then boom, he locks me out. Or locks me in. Now, it might look like, well, king d3 draws, king d1 draws. But why not, king here? It looks like it's the same thing, right? I can just, go in and then, just get the draw. But the problem is, when you go king... If you go king to e2, then I'm not going to go after this pawn. I'm going to go after this pawn. And that is going to be winning for me. And Now, I mean, if you're white, you can try to, like, do the whole race. And, you know, it would be something, well, in a blitz game, you can't really calculate, but white is going to be short on moves. Not only that, but I just cover the queening square. So sometimes calculations like that can be very tricky. Let's say, you know, you go from, like, here. Sometimes sometimes I'll just manually calculate, like, you know, white goes here, here, here. Sorry, you know, here, here, here. Other times you can, like, count the moves. I could count, okay, it's white's move. They need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 moves to reach their goal. I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 moves. I only need 7 moves to reach my goal. So I clearly get in. Or I clearly get my queen on time. I thought the difference would have been 1, but I don't know. Either way, black ends up winning the race. But, so yeah. King E2 doesn't work because of King E4. But King D3 or King D1 draws. And King E1 doesn't work for similar reasons. I'm just going to go in this way. So, he played King C3. And then we got the pawn race. And he's short by 1 tempo. If he's able to queen the pawn, it's a draw because there wouldn't really be a way for me to make progress unless he blundered, of course, which we're not necessarily relying on. This is actually pretty instructive. The problem during the game, though, is I have 17 seconds. Now, I knew the technique, and I was able to execute it for the most part. But it's actually good to sort of, like, show anyway, because I can't let the pawn queen. Unless there's a situation like where my king is close and I can just get a checkmate if the pawn queens. There are exceptions, of course, but in 99% of instances, I cannot let the pawn queen. So, here's what I'm going to do. I'm either going to be checking them, or I'm going to be pinning the pawn. I think this is a step that a lot of people forget, is that you can just pin the pawn, force them to move, and then you can check. But the point is, you're trying to force the king to this square, which you'll eventually get. And when you do, because the pawn cannot push, you are going to use those moves to bring the king in. So, what I did is I played queen a1. Now, he played here. Now, what I should do in these positions is I should just go queen h8 and cover the queening square. But we'll kind of follow the game, what happens. I just keep checking him. This is the most effective way to do it, by the way, kind of zigzag towards them, because eventually, now here, once again, I should just play, like, queen f8, and then if king f2... Sorry, queen f8, and if king c7, then I can go check and proceed. But the idea, you kind of see it in play here. The key move here is queen b6, because I attack the pawn and also stop it from queening. And if king c8, I go check. And the king cannot hide. Or, I mean, sorry, the king can hide, but if the king moves away, I take the pawn. So now if the king hides, I go king f3. And the king is blocked by the pawn. And so we just repeat the process. The problem is, I have no problem just doing it. It just takes a lot of moves and a lot of just, like, checking to make sure. And I only have 11 seconds left, so can I pull it off? I get close, I continue the process, but I have 6 seconds. And keep in mind, I still have to take the pawn, then get checkmate, so that's going to be tricky. I move the king, and then here, I just missed something. Like, I should just go... I should either pin the pawn or go check, try force the king to in front of the pawn, and then eventually get the king in. I played king c6. I think I just thought that after queens I had like a checkmate or something. Turns out I still do whenever he queens, but it's not the angle I thought. The checkmate I would have here is queen f5. Queen f5, and then queen f8, checkmate. So this is like an example of a situation where I can allow the queen, but obviously I didn't see that. So then I just played queen a6. I was just like, oh shoot, I blundered, so I'm just gonna play queen a6, and really it's just like a flag fest. So I just checked, and at some point I stopped checking. He checked, and then with 0.6 seconds left, I have 0.5. He has 0.6. He just trades, and we draw. Now, he could have tried to flag me. He could have just played like check or something and then just like made me move and probably won the game. Well, A, he's also low on time, so it's kind of a risk for him. Like maybe in case like check or something he has to take. But B, he ended up telling me like in the Twitch chat that he just wanted to be a good sport and, you know, just like the game was a draw, and that he just didn't want it to didn't want to sort of mess up that result, which I highly respect. I also did tell him that if he had just flagged me, it would have been fair game. Although I mean, not although. I was the arena manager, tournament director, I don't know. I did set to 3-0, so I understood that there would be some dirty flagging, but he was graceful enough not to do it, and we just ended up drawing. So, king versus king, the purest draw in chess. So yeah, just shout out to Chessbra fan. I don't know his name, I don't really, care. Well, I do, I just don't necessarily need to shout out in the video or anything, just like privacy concerns. But shout out to Chessbra fan, thank you so much for the game. Thank you so much for the Twitch subscriptions, is the word I was looking for. Also, shout out to him. He rated my Twitch earlier, and at some point I had 90 viewers on Twitch, which is crazy. Normally I have like 5 to 10 or something. What I also want to point out, one second, is I want to point out the arena. This was our very first arena. I think y'all can see, yeah. I'll make myself a little bigger, because I have such a big ego, right? Okay, that joke definitely will not land, but that's fine. But as you can see, I came first. I came first with 6 wins, 1 draw, and no losses. So Chessbra fan, I guess I did leak his username, but it's all good. But Chessbra fan was my only draw, my only nick of the tournament. But yeah, as you can see, we had 12 people total. Some people just played like 1 or 2 games and left, so maybe the number's a little bit inflated. But for our first ever, that I can remember, yeah, our first ever sort of viewer arena, I thought it was a success. I thought it was a smashing success at that. So yeah, oh yeah, one other thing I wanted to show. My Twitch channel is Daniel Gell on Twitch, so it'd be twitch.tv/Daniel Gell. Also put a link in the description, of course, and yeah, as you can see, we've been streaming. I've been streaming like pretty much every day, maybe just taking a day or 2 off. And they normally last between like 3 hours and like 1 hour. So nothing crazy. I'm not having these crazy like 7-hour streams or anything like that. But we've been pretty consistent with that. We just got 100 followers, also several gifted subs and things like that. So would really appreciate if you followed, because that's where the vast majority of my content is going. I'm still trying to do YouTube as much as I can, and I still intend to upkeep this channel, but Twitch is a little bit more easy to sort of manage. But yeah, no, I'm just trying to do both. Really, the goal is just to educate our chess fans and for us to have fun with chess. So if you enjoyed the video, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to this video. Also, check out my Twitch. You can give me a follow. No other sort of pressure either way. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Just let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you for the next one. Take care. Bye.